Ladies and gentlemen, we are living through a financial revolution, a silent but seismic shift in how money is defined, moved, and controlled. For years, the digital asset space has operated in an unregulated twilight zone, filled with promise yet plagued with risk. But something historic just happened in the US Senate that may redefine the digital financial landscape for generations to come. The passage of the Genius Act, a sweeping bipartisan bill aimed at creating the first ever federal regulatory framework for stablecoins, is not just a legislative victory, it is the birth of a new era in American finance. At the heart of this transformation is the concept of the stablecoin, a blockchain-based digital asset pegged to the value of traditional currency, usually the US dollar. Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, which fluctuate wildly in price, stablecoins are designed to offer consistency and utility as a medium of exchange. For years, they have existed as the connective tissue between the crypto world and traditional banking, serving as the dollar's digital twin. Yet they have also drawn criticism for lacking oversight, transparency, and consumer protection. The Genius Act, short for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins, was crafted precisely to address this regulatory void. With a resounding 66-32 vote in the Senate, the act passed with rare bipartisan support. That detail is more significant than most realize. In a hyperpolarized Washington, few issues bridge the gap between left and right. But the financial stability, global competitiveness, and consumer protection offered by this bill prove to be a unifying force. It brings the digital dollar conversation from fringe debates on social media into the halls of formal legislation. It is no longer a question of if stablecoins should be regulated, but how and who gets to write the rules. The Genius Act mandates that stablecoin issuers must maintain one-to-one reserves in US dollars or highly liquid US Treasury securities. That's not a suggestion. It's the law. It further requires monthly reserve disclosures and annual third-party audits for issuers with over $50 billion in circulation. In essence, it brings stablecoin companies into a regulatory framework that mirrors traditional financial institutions. They must comply with strict anti-money laundering and know-your-customer requirements, and they must prove that their operations are as solid as the name stablecoin implies. Gone are the days when a digital token backed by nothing but a promise could float freely on the internet. This development changes everything, not just for crypto startups and fintech pioneers, but also for Wall Street banks, central banks, and even geopolitical rivals. The Act's clarity is expected to trigger a wave of institutional interest. Investment firms like Fidelity, commercial banks like Bank of America, and payment giants like PayPal and Visa are now far more likely to expand into stablecoin issuance or integration, knowing that the rules of the game are finally written. And for global investors looking to safeguard against inflation or unstable local currencies, a US-regulated, dollar-backed digital token becomes an extremely attractive option. Yet, even as the bill wins praise for its potential to spur innovation and reduce risk, it is not without controversy. Critics on both sides of the aisle have questioned whether the act favors certain entities, particularly private companies with political connections. Former President Donald Trump's reported ties to a stablecoin initiative called USD1, issued by World Liberty Financial, have drawn scrutiny. While the bill itself does not mention any specific token or entity, watchdog groups argue that regulatory pathways should be free of favoritism or the appearance of political collusion. The legitimacy of the bill, they argue, depends not only on what it says, but on how it is enforced. This concern is compounded by the explosive growth of stablecoins in recent years. In just over 5 years, the market cap of dollar-pegged tokens like Tether, USDT, and USD Coin, USDC, ballooned from under $3 billion to well over $130 billion. And while this growth showcases demand, it also raises systemic questions. What happens if a major issuer fails to maintain its reserves? What if the digital dollar becomes a vector for capital flight from developing nations? What if geopolitical adversaries exploit US-regulated stablecoins for shadow transactions? The Genius Act tries to preempt such outcomes by tightening reserve standards, increasing disclosure, and mandating federal licensing for all major issuers. But enforcement, as always, will be key. Beyond the technical provisions, there is a deeper narrative unfolding. This act is not just a tool of regulation, it is a symbol of a new American strategy. In the global digital currency race, China has already launched its digital yuan, with the aim of weakening the dollar's supremacy. Europe is exploring a digital euro. Smaller nations from Nigeria to the Bahamas have already begun testing central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The Genius Act signals that the US is not just reacting, it is asserting leadership. It is betting that a hybrid model of private sector innovation under federal oversight can beat out authoritarian-controlled CBDCs. It is also making a statement to the world. The digital version of the US dollar will be legal, regulated, and global. Yet, the journey is far from over. The bill now heads to the House of Representatives, where it must survive further negotiation, amendment, and lobbying. Should it pass there, it will head to the president's desk. But even then, the hard work begins. Regulatory agencies like the SEC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and the US Treasury will need to coordinate implementation. Stablecoin issuers will need to rebuild compliance frameworks, reassess business models, and rethink liquidity strategies. Consumers will need to be educated on what this new class of digital money means for their everyday lives. And most importantly, Congress will need to remain vigilant against unintended consequences and loopholes. Already, smaller crypto projects are expressing concern. For many, the cost of compliance with the Genius Act could be prohibitive. Annual audits, monthly reserve disclosures, and expensive legal frameworks may be manageable for financial giants, but not for garage-based startups. There is a risk that the bill, while cleaning up the industry, also consolidates power in the hands of a few well-capitalized firms. If so, then innovation could stagnate even as risk declines. This is a delicate balance, and one that regulators must handle with care. On the flip side, many view the Genius Act as the gateway to finally unlocking the potential of blockchain for mainstream finance. By legalizing and standardizing stablecoins, the US government is effectively blessing the infrastructure for programmable money. That means faster settlements, cheaper cross-border payments, on-chain lending, and even automated tax collection. The possibilities are vast, and they are now on a much firmer legal footing. There is also a behavioral dimension to consider. As consumers grow accustomed to digital wallets, QR code payments, and tokenized assets, stablecoins could quietly become the dominant method of value exchange, especially in online commerce. With the Genius Act in place, merchants may be more likely to accept them, platforms more likely to integrate them, and individuals more willing to trust them. We may soon reach a point where the average person pays rent, gets paid, and invests, all in regulated stablecoins. Of course, none of this happens in a vacuum. As US lawmakers chart a path for stablecoin adoption, international observers are taking notes. Some nations may mimic the US model. Others may resist it, viewing American stablecoins as an extension of soft power. But for the moment, the US holds a first-mover advantage. By writing the rules before others, it can set the global standard, and in doing so, reinforce the dollar's central role in both analog and digital economies. In the end, the Genius Act represents more than a piece of legislation. It is a philosophy. It reflects the belief that innovation and regulation are not enemies, but partners. That digital technology, when grounded in sound governance, can expand prosperity. That the future of money should be both free and fair. And that American leadership, when bold and collaborative, can still shape the world's financial destiny. To all those watching the headlines, this may seem like just another bill. But to those building the future of finance, to coders, entrepreneurs, economists, and policymakers alike, it is a defining moment. It is the signal they've been waiting for. The green light, the regulatory sunrise, and perhaps the beginning of a new digital age, not led by speculative chaos, but by lawful innovation. Thank you for your attention.